Hello and welcome to the Tournament Center here at Pro Tour Kaladesh in Honolulu, Hawaii. I'm Brian David Marshall. I'm joined by R&D member Ian Duke, and we are going to watch, well, Ian, it's Fro time. We're going to watch Eric Froehlich 8-0 draft this Kaladesh format. Anything's possible. We've seen beatdown decks, we've seen combo decks, we've seen every kind of mid-range in between, right?
Yeah, it's a wide open format for sure. You can do tons of different things, lots of two-card combinations or multi-card combinations. So I can't wait to see what we're gonna take a look at here. All
right, let's open up pack one and see what Eric Froehlich has in store for us. So, Eric Froehlich, by the way, you'll see, has an eye patch on. He had cataract surgery, has to wear a patch to sort of even out his eyesight a little bit here. But we see him opening his first pack here. And the first card that is getting, there's a Snare Thopter in there, which is a really solid card. But there's also a Cultivator's Caravan, and that is a 5/5 vehicle that cruises for 3.
Yeah, other standouts, Aether Meltdown is a great removal spell. Longfin Sky Whale, also a very powerful card, although doesn't necessarily fit into the default blue strategy, which is a little bit more controlling. Yeah, plenty of good options here. I like Snare Thopter a lot, but I could also see going with the Cultivator's Caravan.
Well, I mean, I think one of the hallmarks that we've seen from some of the top players at this tournament is a willingness to splash, to go into 3 and 4 colors, and Cultivator's Caravan both hits hard and lets you ramp your mana and do some crazy stuff.
Absolutely true. And I happen to know Eric likes green a lot and specifically likes green decks with splashes. So it could be leading the way toward that.
So in this pack, we see a Wild Wanderer. We see an Armorcraft Judge, which is, if you get into any kind of the green token strategies, +1/+1 counter strategies, that card can get out of hand really quickly.
Yeah, very powerful
4 and
card.
5 cards with that card in draft.
For sure. Other standouts here, Riparian Tiger, Furious Reprisal, Ether Hub also. It'd be a little bit early to pick a land, I think, but it does fit in with the theme of being able to splash a lot. But looks like he's going to go with that Armorcraft Judge. Really powerful card, asks you to build around it a little bit, but the build around isn't a huge ask given that, green has a lot of Fabricate, and if you pair it with white or black, you naturally have a lot of +1/+1 counters in your deck.
Yeah, it's really interesting because I think a lot of times when you play Fabricate creatures, you want to go wide, but this is a card that asks you to play those cards a little differently.
So second Longfin Sky Whale there, as well as I think a Decoction module is an option.
Ballista Chargers, the vehicle, there's a Accomplished Automaton, there's an Appetite for the Unnatural, but not cards you want to pick this early in the pack, I think.
Yeah, nothing standing out as a slam dunk for me here. The most powerful card.
Decoction module's a slam dunk for me.
Oh, is it for you?
I'm not trying to go, 11-0 at the.
You're already on the module plan.
Perimeter.
It looks like Eric agrees, actually. And, I've heard talk from players that these modules have gone up and up steadily in the rankings as people realize that they seem a little slow, but they can do really powerful things and they're great mana sinks in the late game.
So there's Prophetic Prism. We heard Luis and Marshall talking about Prophetic Prism as a card that Shota Yasuoka really, really wanted and did not see many. This could be where the Prophetic Prism gets off the conveyor belt.
Yeah, it's a bit of a deceptively high pick. It looks like a do-nothing artifact, but it triggers all of your artifact synergies.
There, though. That's also a really nice card.
Right, and yeah, I like Shrewd Negotiation a lot, but it looks like Eric, that's not powerful enough for him to go into splashing just yet, and he goes with the Prophetic Prism to enable more splashing later on in the draft for potentially looking for something more powerful.
Ceremonious Rejection. You see a Glassblower's Puzzle Knot. Everyone's favorite Dramatic Reversal. Not a card that is going to you're going to see picked or played.
Yeah, this looks like a pretty weak pack, actually, BDM. Nothing stands out as great.
Shala's Claim has really overperformed for me.
Has it?
It's just like an ordinary card. It's just kind of like a body that trades but getting that 3 energy off of it is just really nice.
Yeah,
when you have a payoff for it.
The key for that card is, do you get the energy payoffs? Because a 2-mana 2/1 in this format is just relatively understated, doesn't really block too well. So we may see Eric looking for ways to use that energy here in the future.
And late in the game, also with the Decoction model, you can bounce it, replay it, and that starts to really add up your energy count.
Oh, that's a great point as well.
But Propeller Pioneer is a easy pick here, I think, for him. Whirlmaker, kind of, maybe tempting, but Propeller Pioneer, just a really straightforward card. One of the best examples of the Fabricate strategy, where you actually have to make a decision. Do I need that creature on the board, or do I want the 3/2 flyer here?
Yeah, absolutely. One of my favorite of the Fabricate creatures. And keep in mind that he does have that Armorcraft Judge, so every Fabricate creature has a little bit additional value each time.
All right, here we see an Eddy Trail Hawk get sifted to the front really quickly. There's a salivating gremlins going around the table. There's also a Cobra, which is Narnet Cobra, which is a nice, defensive-ish creature, or, sometimes, your opponent is, lets it through a couple times because they don't want to risk their best creatures to death touch.
Yeah, I like the Cobra a lot, but it looks like Ifra does go with the Eddy Trail Hawk here.
Yeah, we see another Eddy Trail Hawk, and also see a card that was kind of a sleeper card in Constructed, Consulate Surveillance.
Yeah, I suspect that's going a little too deep here for table 1 of the Pro Tour, but it's a card that I've had some fun trying to build around.
It was another Eddy Trail Hawk there for Eric Froehlich. So Weldfast Wingsmith, Aether Trade Winds, Reckless Fireweaver. I've seen people who like Giant Spectacle, obviously not in the colors Eric Froehlich's in here.
Right. You have to be pretty all-in aggressive, I think, to make use of that.
But he does take the Reckless Fireweaver.
Yeah, I think that was the best card in the pack. I think it's probably unlikely that he plays it at this point. But
there's a Wild Wanderer. We saw that, the first time around the table, kind of in the back of the pack, but it comes around. So
that's a
3
really
mana
nice
fixers
pickup
for him here through pack 1. Right?
Yeah.
We have a Prophetic Prism, we have a Wild Wanderer, and we have the Cultivator's Caravan. So, Eric Froehlich is going to be able to do kind of whatever he wants with any off-color bombs that come his way in the next 2 packs.
Goes with the Accomplished Automaton there, just kind of an extra high-end creature if you need it.
Thriving Ibex with 3 cards left in the pack, just a really nice card, especially if you're trying to set up. It can be a nice offense, but really it's kind of nice as a card that you get to turtle behind.
Mm-hmm. So as we round out pack 1 here, I'd say things are looking solid, but not spectacular. But a big part of that is because Ifra's been really valuing the mana fixing, and that's going to leave him open in these future packs to pick up potential bombs, or maybe even shift gears, shift colors a little bit. Looks like he's shaping up to be base green-white right now, but with plenty of opportunity to splash a bomb if he sees it.
Laying the groundwork for future packs, for sure. Yeah, three mana fixtures through pack 1, that are all, sort of fine cards on their own, right? It's not like you're, investing in a rampant growth or something that's not, advancing your board position on the front lines.
Absolutely, and they're cards that are going to make his deck, regardless of which direction he goes from here. And I think, his options are fairly wide open from this point.
Decoction module is kind of an interesting card too. A card sort of another card where you're like, well, I'm investing in this and I'm going to see what happens. I'm going to see what the market, brings over the next 2 cycles here.
Yeah, and it may be because of that decoction module that he picked early that he's prioritized things like the Sage of Shiloh's Claim and the Eddy Trail Hawks just a little bit higher than he would have otherwise. So yeah, looks like a solid start here, not blowing me away, but yeah, I'm really pleased with the options that Ifra is going to have going forward here.
What are you looking for as you go into pack 2? No, don't get greedy. Don't go mythic on me.
Okay.
But in the uncommons and commons, what's a card? I mean, are you still just looking for a Renegade Freighter? Is that the kind of card you want to open here?
I'd be happy with a solid common like a Renegade Freighter, or even splashing something like a Welding Sparks. But really, he's in a position where he can pick up almost any of the rares. Double color might be a little bit tough, but I think there's a pretty high chance that we'll see him pick up whatever his rare is if it's powerful enough.
I liked a little bit of the troll there from Eric Froehlich. As we're watching, he put a dramatic reversal at the front of his cards. He's like, yes, I've got my dramatic reversal. All right, so pack 2. See Eric waiting. You see it get a little bit of some of the other players at the table. You see Ben White's up there in the blue hoodie. And now we look, there's an appetite for the unnatural. There's a larger than life Snare Thopter. Oh,
wow.
You talked about energy payoffs earlier. Multiform Wonder. This card is kind of a robotic nod to Morphling.
Yeah, a fantastic card. Goes in almost any deck, but gets substantially more powerful if you do have energy cards. And we saw Eric pick up a number of energy cards in the first pack there. We talked about splashing is rare regardless of what it is. Turns out that task is not too difficult here, given that it's a powerful artifact.
Yeah, your packs have to open pretty well for you to pass 2 Snare Thopters, in your first 2 picks of each pack.
Yeah, that's very true. Snare Thopter is a fantastic card. It's part of its value is that it's colorless, so it's you're more likely to pick it pack 1, pick 1 than later on in the draft because other cards can exceed it once you know your colors. But totally agree, he's had some pretty good opens so far.
There's a Prophetic Prism. There's a Baromet Courier.
Malfunction is maybe an option. Another Prophetic Prism.
William Bandar.
Don't think we have quite enough artifacts for like an underhanded designs here. So
Yeah,
I'm kind of on the Prophetic Prism right here, but Malfunction's also reasonable.
Right, and easily splashable, as we've already established with the 3 color fixing, but that might not be enough for Eric Froehlich. He might be going for a 4th here. And there, yeah, he does take
Loving
the Prophetic Prism.
Yeah, so he's wide open in terms of what he can splash in his deck at this point. But you do have to be a little bit careful when you invest this many picks in sort of, do nothing type mana fixers. You can end up a little bit short on playables or a little bit short on action in your deck.
Did you see what I saw? Panharmonicon.
Ooh, I love it.
pretty sweet card with those Prophetic Prisms. Pretty sweet with a lot of the different enters the battlefield abilities in his deck.
Yeah, this is a card that has had wildly different initial evaluations from players. I love to read the limited strategy articles when the set first comes out and see how players' evaluations differ from R&D evaluations. But
he's taking the
Panharmonicon. I can tell you, the inside info on this card is it can be the real deal for sure. And I think we've seen it show up a little bit so far here at the Pro Tour, and it could be fantastic in Eric's deck.
Oh my gosh, and talk about a card that plays very well with Panharmonicon. There's a Wisp Weaver Angel. You get 2 triggers from the Angel. You get to exile 2 creatures, bring them back. If
and
they
then
have entered
each
the
of those gets 2 triggers as well.
Yeah.
So you're going to be getting like 4 triggers off of your Wisp Weaver Angel.
Again, you have a decoction module in play. Suddenly you have, triple digits of energy and your multiform wonder is flying all over the place.
Right, and it seems like a little, kind of fantastical to assemble these kind of crazy engines, but those kind of combinations can serve as your end game in this format, which allows you to prioritize, defense early and kind of curving out a little bit.
Remember,
better.
you get to draw 2 cards off of your Prophetic Prisms with a Panharmonicon.
That's a great point. That's a very, very substantial interaction.
So looking at a Cogworkers Puzzle Knot, but also looking at the Voltaic Brawler. So this is an example of a card that is very easy for you to splash.
That's true. However, part of the value of Voltaic Brawler is it's just a very efficient creature on curve on turn 2. And a lot of, for his splash capability doesn't allow him to necessarily cast that consistently on turn 2. So it's going to be, a valuable card later in the game, but not as good as it would be in a straight red-green deck.
So Pima Outrider and Aether Hub are the 2 cards that he shuffles to the front.
Love the Pima Outrider.
Pima Outrider's just been fantastic.
Yeah, one of the top green commons for sure, and works well in his deck with the Armorcraft Judge, Panharmonicon. Also just works well by itself, and it's a great
that's
blocker,
one of the things
great
I like
attacker.
Just like a 4/4 for 4.
Yep.
So Bastion, Mastodon, Larger Than Life, Wildfast Monitor. There's a late Brazen Scourge just floating around the table there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we could see the takedown for the sideboard or the Bastion Mastodon just to make sure that he's going to end up with enough top end in his curve. The Mastodon, a solid but not spectacular card you can main deck. The takedown, a nice sideboard option to have. Looks like he's valuing the sideboard option a little bit higher here, and I generally agree.
Wow, it's a very late Propeller Pioneer.
Wow, that's a great pickup. This pack has been rounding out very nicely for Efro here. I think we're absolutely going to see the Propeller Pioneer here, and again, more Fabricate, works well with...
Plays well with all of his
just everything,
rounds.
Yeah. The list gets longer and longer each time I say plays well with, just as all these synergies develop in his deck.
There's an Appetite for the Unnatural, really nice card to just, you really kind of want one of this effect in your main deck.
Definitely agree.
And often access to more in your sideboard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm for sure always starting the first Appetite. Sometimes I'll play 2, usually 1 and 1 in the sideboard.
Thriving Rats, Glassblowers Puzzle Knot, Commencement of Festivities. I don't have Eric Froehlich as a fog guy.
Yeah, not much there, so it just picks up the Thriving Rats. That's probably more taking a solid card away from his potential opponents.
Look at this, another very late Thriving Ibex. I mean, not a spectacular card, but certainly not a 12th pick.
Yeah, absolutely. I also noted the Tezzeret's Ambition in that pack. I like that card quite a bit. It can be slow, but it's a great addition to a controlling blue deck.
Another Reckless Fire Weaver for, just because we're running out of cards here.
Mm-hmm.
Nimble Innovator, William Bandar, last to the party again. Don't call him Billy. He hates that. All right. So Eric Froehlich,
Hey.
looking through the pack.
Manners for the lady.
Looked like a very solid second pack there.
Yeah, I thought that pack went about as, he opened a bomb. he got past really solid cards. And
Nice
got
time-
one
time
of the
to
cards
draw
that
a
if
line.
you're the guy who knows how to build this deck, this Panharmonicon deck,
And now
a
with
really
that.
high payoff card as well. Third or fourth pick there.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this is shaping up to be a good deck. It's not like obviously good in the sense of like, a 2-color red-black deck with a perfect curve and a very focused game plan. It's not that kind of good deck. It's more just like very high card quality, great mana, plenty of opportunity to splash whatever he opens in pack 3. He's got some bombs.
And honestly, at this point, it's always interesting. Sometimes when you're really pressed for playables, you don't have that opportunity to indulge in sideboard cards. You just like, oh no, I have to take this 5 mana vanilla flyer, otherwise vanilla flyer here. But you can take instead an appetite for the unnatural because you already have when you have so many cards and you're so sort of far along the way to your deck, and you're going to get there in pack 3. You don't have to script, so you can go 42, 43 cards instead of just 40 cards. Not saying you're going to play that, but I'm saying you
Right,
expand
right.
your picks into your sideboard.
Definitely true. So if there is one, concern I think that Ephraim might have at this point, it's he does have plenty to do in the early game, but it's not particularly defensive. If he spends his mana on turn 2 playing Prophetic Prism or Decoction Module, or even Eddy Trailhawk is not really a big board presence early on in the game, and he's not set up to be kind of a racing type aggressive deck. So if I were him, I'd be looking for more substantial 2 and 3 drops that give me a lot of board presence early in the game.
I mean, obviously, Revoke Privileges is always an ideal card for any deck playing white, but it seems like the kind of card he also wants. Where
For
he can-
sure, something
he can
like-
just put that on your, Longtooth Cub or, whatever on, as on your turn 3 there after their turn 2 and give you a little bit of that time to set up.
Yep, even like Thriving Rhino would be great. Long Tusk Cub would be a great card to see. Oh, speaking of which, there's one right here in the pack.
Oh wow, look at this though. But there's also a Smuggler's Cup.
Yeah, we talked about good 2-drops that give you good board presence and potential for racing. Smuggler's Copter, obviously a card we've seen a lot so far this weekend in the constructed format.
Wow, I'm fascinated. Which way do you go here? Which one do you take? I mean, the Long Tusk Cub plays far better into the strategy of his deck, but Smuggler's Copter is so powerful.
Yeah, I'm on the Copter. You're right that it's not at its best in his deck, but having played against this card in limited number of times, it is very, very difficult to beat. Just hard to interact with through sorcery speed. There's not a lot of removal spells
I
that
don't
kill
know if
it.
you saw that, but it's like when you go to the pet store and you can't really adopt a cat today, but you give it a nice little, you saw Eric sort of pet the Long Tusk
It's
Cub
like,
as he said.
I would have been happy with you, but we got the Smuggler's Copter here, so we're going with that.
Wow, there's a Renegade Freighter. There's also an Imperial Voyager.
Yeah, and this is the perfect type of card that Eric can splash here. Unlike the Voltaic Brawler, which was a 2-drop competing with his Prophetic Prisms and also something that's a little better on curve, Imperial Voyager being a 3-drop and a flyer is kind of better even if you don't find the mana to cast it early on in the game. So I like this pickup a lot. There's also Renegade Freighter there as well.
Renegade Freighter, which is I think most people have as the top common.
Right.
And he does take the Renegade Freighter.
Okay, I could see a case for either of those cards there. Obviously, Renegade Freighter, just, fantastic common, but Eric's deck is a little bit weak on ways to crew it early in the game. He has that Sage of Shyla's Claim, I think, but not too much else coming down early to really attack with that on curve.
Well, there's a Seed Sculptor. And that's actually a really nice 2-drop, Kujar Seed Sculptor.
Yeah, Seed Sculptor is actually just what his deck wants. Very solid card. You're not like out of your mind to pick it this early, but given that we're in pack 3 and we know what Eric's curve looks like, this is really filling it out quite nicely and plays well with the Renegade Freighter he just picked up, plays well with the Smuggler's Copter he picked up, and definitely going to be the pick for him here.
Plays well with the Panharmonicon he picked up.
And the Armorcraft Judge as well.
He's got a lot of synergies, going across multiple mechanics.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's
That is a very, very late Welding Sparks, but there's also an Arborback Stomper.
Arborback Stomper. Okay, so I said last pack, not thrilled to pick something up at this point in this draft. I think you are thrilled to pick up Arborback Stomper at this point in the draft.
But you also have to, with so much fixing, you also have to think about that Welding Sparks. That card is, very, very easy for him to cast.
You do, but if Arborback Stomper wasn't also a great defensive card,
Sure.
I'd be more sympathetic to the removal spell there, but it's both more powerful than Welding Sparks and also with the life gain that you get. And also, talking about synergies, playing Panharmonicon into Arborback Stomper is like the dream.
Into Wispweaver.
Into Whispering Angel, oh my goodness. Wonder if we'll see that here as the drafts play out.
So there's another appetite for the unnatural. There's a core prowler, but he doesn't need anything at that casting cost here.
Ether Trade Winds is also reasonable. It's not a super high power level card, but like as you pointed out, Eric's a little bit low on removal, so he could be considering that as well. But yeah, I like picking up the Appetite. It's also another pseudo removal spell. Does take out a lot of the relevant threats in the format.
Yeah, and okay, could he possibly double splash a Whirler Virtuoso? He has so much access to energy in this deck. There's so many crazy things he could do. Can he actually double splash this?
It's ambitious for sure. I mean, it's certainly not coming out on turn 3 reliably, I can tell you that. But wow, looks like, yeah, Eric's just going for it.
See a little bit of a like smirk. I
was just about to weigh the pros and cons between that and say like an Ornamental Courage,
that's the card I was thinking
would have been
about.
a safer pick, but nope, just goes for the Whirler.
Gives a read to Consulate Surveillance there. There's also another takedown. There's a card. I mean, Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot, also a card that, you know, if you're, you know, going the energy route is a fine card.
Yeah, I don't think Eric has quite enough like huge payoffs to play the Woodweaver's Puzzle Knot.
Yep.
And yeah, it does go with the takedown here, just another addition for the sideboard. It's possible he plays one main, but probably both sideboard cards.
And he's like, I think, wow, there's a Propeller Pioneer. But there's also a Durable Handicraft in the pack.
Wow. Durable Handicraft is a card, again, you know, a contested card in terms of people's evaluations of it, but it's a card that I like a lot, and obviously combos really, really well with Armorcraft Judge.
Yeah, and Eric Froehlich is taking the Durable Handicraft, and I think that should give you some really good information about where someone, you know, a Hall of Famer values that card, because he took it over a very, very pickable card in the Propeller Pioneer.
Yep, definitely true. Is worth noting that he does have a lot of 4-drops in his deck, maybe part of the equation there.
Sure.
Picks up a Riparian Tiger here, another late gift here. I've been really impressed with the quality of green cards that Eric's been seeing this late in the draft.
So there's a Ballista Charger. There's also a Ninth Bridge Patrol. You know, not your ideal 2-drop, but
yeah,
you know, it can get out of hand as the game goes along.
Yeah, may or may not make the cut. Not super keen on that card, but you know, can crew vehicles and such. Engineered might.
Yeah, pretty nice. I mean, you know, if he goes wide with his
yeah, again, may or may not make the cut. Might be a flex slot in his sideboard that you can bring in certain matchups.
Cogworker's Puzzle Knot, and then just rounding out the last couple picks here for Eric Froehlich. You see, he's going to take a Core Prowler there. Passes the night market. Look out! Much to Neil Rigby's chagrin, and that takes the last card. Wow. That was a fun draft to watch, you know, and it started off with mana fixing. We saw him take, you know, a mana fixer with the first pick. We saw him take a Prophetic Prism pretty early in the first pack in the hopes of staying open. Mm-hmm. Do you think that Whirler Virtuoso is going to be in his green-white deck?
That's a great question. It's hard to speculate. I think yes, like just given the speed at which he picked it, and you know he was really looking at it closely. I think there's a high chance he'll of course have to lay out his deck and look at his curve and look at his playables, but there's a very real chance that he can add that in there, I'd say.
How do you like the deck that Eric Froehlich drafted? I
love the way he drafted. I think he ended up with a very good deck as well. You know, I would call this very solid to, you know, solid plus. I'd probably give it an A-, keeping in mind my bar for A is very, very high. So, you know, could be an A- or an A in some people's eyes.
So we're going to see this deck on camera. We're going to see him play against Shota Yasuoka. What are the things you want to look at? What are the traps in this deck to keep an eye on for Eric Froehlich?
I mean, Panharmonicon is just, it can be a very swingy card, right? Like if you get it going and you've got the right stuff to play into it and you have a stable board, it can be hugely powerful. But, you know, we could see Eric get kind of a more dirtily draw with like a turn 2 Decoction module, no play on turn 3, Panharmonicon on turn 4. Those are the types of draws he's really going to want to avoid, and he's going to want to make sure he gets enough board presence that he can leverage the power of his deck going into the late game.
All right, Ian Duke, Brian David Marshall, signing off from the Tournament Center with Eric Froehlich's Draft Tech.